Okay, we're in the middle of a sugya, a lot about sayings of Rabbi Eliezer. We saw yesterday Rabbi Eliezer's shitas. Rabbi Eliezer did not hold you can make a sukkah chalamoid. Rabbi Eliezer said you can't go from sukkah to sukkah. Rabbi Eliezer held that you have to stay with your wife in the moed, you can't leave. Rabbi Eliezer said it's a shaila. We left off with a shaila about not a sukkah tik shaila, but a Shabbos tik shaila about being boina, adding on to a binyan. We wanted to say why can't he be punished for himself? He said constantly repeating that he didn't say something over b'shem Rabbi, only b'shem Rabbi, didn't say his own stuff. And we concluded yesterday that there's a difference between a sukkah and a shutter on a house. A shutter in his house, maybe it might be batal, Mashen came by a sukkah where it's temporary not. We're up to Chav Ches Amud Aleph. We're up to 2 lines from the top. Tan Rabbanan. Ma'isa beRabbi Eliezer sheshavas begolel. We spent Shabbos in the golel. North America as well. Golel Elyon. V'shalua shloishim halachas behilchas sukkah. We asked him 30 halachas behilchas sukkah. They asked him 30 halachas behilchas sukkah. Shtayim esrei amar lehem. 12 he said to them, Shamati, I heard, and Shmonasa amar lehem lo Shamati. And 18 he said, I didn't hear. Rabbi Yossi bar Yoda Aimer, we're on Chav Ches Amud Aleph Penny, 5 lines from the top.
Thank you.
Rabbi Yehuda Aimer Chilif Hadvarim, switch around the words. Shmona esrei amar lehem Shamati. 18 out of the 30 he said, I didn't hear, and Shtayim esrei amar lehem lo Shamati. Now, the Rabbi Eliezer guys. There was a reason they called Rabbi Eliezer ben Hurkos Rabbi Eliezer Agadol, right? There wasn't anything he didn't know. So they asked him, Amuloi, called to Arecha, Eina Melon Piashmua. 18 you heard, 12 you didn't hear, 12 you didn't hear, 18 you did hear. What are you going back and forth about the whole discussion about whether you heard or not? Why don't you use your chachma and tell us what you think? So Amalehem, so Rabbi Eliezer said to them, his kaktuni loima davish shematim pi Rabbi say. You want to force me to say something I didn't hear from my Rebbe? Again, consistently with yesterday, where he traded him a cup. He asked Makash, and he told him was the shayftim. There wasn't shayftim from every other malachim. He didn't give an answer. So now you want to go ahead and force me to go ahead and tell you something that I didn't hear from my Rebbe? No one ever beat me to the Beis HaMedrash. I never slept in the Beis HaMedrash, even though Shena are permitted. And some even say shenis keva, lo shenis keva, lo shenis ra. I never at all went ahead and even slept in the Beis HaMedrash. I never left the person in the Beis HaMedrash. I was always the last person to leave. And I didn't speak sichas skulin. If you look at Rashi, guys, 3 lines from the top, sichas skulin, Kenny, Chav Ches Amud Aleph, Rashi, 3 lines from the top. Sichas divrei havoy v'schaik, words of nothingness and laughter. Klaimar. Masha sipik biyode loymifnei b'chalela v'yev sheshon Rabbi say davar beis hamedrash leishmati u'masha leishmati loyam l'kach midasi. My midah is that what I'm not going to go ahead and say something I didn't hear. So Rashi said very geshmak, guys, very nice deal, guys. Do you remember we had earlier that even the sichas of Talmidei Chacham, the sichas skulin you should learn from? So Rashi explains over here that no, these are not that type of sichas skulin. Over there, that was sichas skulin. He's telling you a story about that. This story, from a story, sichas skulin, you hear big things. But divrei havai, just foolishness, like that, not. So there's a difference between this sichas skulin and the one we mentioned earlier in the Masechta, where even a sichas skulin of a Talmud Chacham you learn from, right? This is not that type of sichas skulin. Anyway, you see that he's telling him that this is my midah. I never did this. So don't force me to say something that I never did. Amar Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Again, my Yochanan Zakkai, guys, was from the. We're going to see from here the youngest Talmud of Hillel, and he was a lot in the last Tanoim during the Churban Bayis. We had the Gemara in Gittin, right? Like he asked for Yavne and Chachma Secha. He asked someone to serve at Tzaddik, and he asked for the Machlos Beis David to be continued. So he was the last of the great the Tanoim who lived at the time of the Beis Hamikdash. He was the destruction. You're stealing my thunder. You're stealing my thunder. You looked ahead, Harold. No. Harold, just Yosha. Amru alav al Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai miyamav loisach sichas skulin. He never spoke sichas skulin. Loiholach dalit amos. He never walked dalit amos below Torah. There should be, if it's not down here, there's blue gemaras all on the tables. Look on the tables or upstairs. There's blue gemaras. There's plenty of gemaras. I know. Okay, and if they're not over here, they must be upstairs. I don't know what they. He never walked 4 amos without Torah, without tefillin. Like more than Beis HaMedrash. No one person ever been into the Beis HaMedrash. Well, Yoshim bebeis hamedrash. He never slept in the base hamedrash. This is about again Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai and Rabbi Eliezer. Guys, the Mishnah had in the there were 5 Talmidim Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai. Rabbi Eliezer ben Hurkinis, right? So he was noyig the midas of one of his great Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai. Loishin is kev, Loishin is aroy. Well, hiru muvois and with nafes. This we didn't say by Rabbi Eliezer ben Hurkinis. We said by Rabbi Yochanan. He never places nothing to do place of dirt. He never went ahead and thought of Torah thoughts. V'leiniach adam beis hamedrash v'yatza. He was always the last one out. He didn't find the person sitting being quiet. Sitting and learning. He would open the doors. He also never said anything he didn't have from his Rebbe. Again, we point out, guys, very important. This is dafka when the Rebbe was alive. When the Rebbe was not alive, of course, they would go ahead and say, we have tremendous amount of shmuas and shas from Eliezer ben Hurkinis, right? He's the first guys. The first they ever say Kodesh Mariavis, Mishot Shemini Adam Kind of Chesed Masan, Arash Marishon, the Rebbe Eliezer. This is the first person in shas. And if you look in the last Mishnah, Uktzin is the last person there. Okay, and you still the beginning with Rebbe Eliezer. So l'chayra, what do you mean? If you never said anything, Mitak Rabbi, you have so many. When his Rebbe was alive, he didn't say it. After Rebbe was nifty, he said his own stuff. And he never said it's to come the time to go ahead and leave the base of Medrash. Chutz me'arve psachim, where he had to go bring the Korban Pesach. Guys, he lived in the time of what? He lived in the time of the Churban Bayis. He lived in the time of the Churban Bayis, and he had to bring the Korban Pesach, guys. So therefore, he left the base Medrash early to go ahead and bring the Korban Pesach. And in addition, the Arve Yom Kippurim, he also went on Yom Kippur. It was a mitzvah to eat, guys. A mitzvah Yom Kippur, so he left the base Medrash early. And so too his Talmud Rabbi Eliezer was noyig after. A very, very famous Gemara now. Tan Rabbanan. Shmoina Talmidim hoyeloi lehil azaken. There were 80 Talmidim to Hillel Azaken. 80 Talmidim. Shloisha mehem, 30 of them, ru'uyim shetishra alav shchina k'Moshe Rabbeinu. 30 of them is roy that the shchina should be shayra on them like Moshe Rabbeinu. That's how great they were. Let's get back to this in a minute. Ushloisha mehem, and 30 of them, ru'uyim shetamulem chamak Yeshua binun, and 30 of them was roy for what? For the sun to stop like it did b'mei Yeshua. Total of 60. 60 out of 80, we're left with 20. And Esrim Beinanim, and Esrim Beinanim, who was the son? Shemesh Begivain Doim. Shemesh Begivain Doim. He had to continue fighting the battle.
This is happening.
What? Gadol Shebekulan, who was the greatest Talmud Rad of? Who was the greatest Talmud of Hillel Azaken, guys? It was none other than Osniel ben Kenaz. Yonasan ben Uziel. It was none other than Yonasan ben Uziel. Katan Shebekulan Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Amrullah Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Shleiniach Mikra, not Pasikim Shebeksav, Umishna, Gemara, Halachas, Ve'agodes. We're going to see all this in Rashi in a second. Dikduke Torah, Dikduke Soifrim, Kalim, Ve'chamoyrim, Ve'gezeres, Shabbos, Kufos, Ve'gematrios, Sichas Malachi Ashares, the Sichas Shedim, the Sichas, the Kolim, right? Moishles Koivsim, the Mishalim of launderers, Mushlim Shualim of regarding Faxton, Dava Gadol Dava Cotton. He knew everything. And he was the youngest of them, the smallest of them. Dava Gadol is Ma'aser Merkava, Dava Cotton is Ma'aser Merkava of Yecheskel, Dava Cotton is Avayas, the Abaye Varava, the questions of Abaye Varava, we'll see that as Hashem. The Kaima Shenemar, Lahanchel Oeva Yesh, Vosvasei Mimale. If this was Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai, who was the smallest, right? Yonasan ben Uziel, but Amrullah Yonasan ben Uziel, b'shasha Yoshev Oisik b'Torah, in the time he was sitting Oisik b'Torah, kol oif shepareach alav, any oif that flew over his head, miyad nisraif, should go ahead, Rod, and burn right away. So the two things that are a few things in this very famous Agartha. First of all, they say kavitz. They say you see a Hasidic guy learning this Gemara and a Litvish guy learning the Gemara, right? So the Hasidic guy learns the Gemara. He goes, "Give our cook the Figel gate the rice and fra ben from the koyach from Torah." And the Lifak says, and Wiffel Saltman Fadenezik. How to look at it. Yeah, how much do you pay for damaging the bird, right? And there's a famous word from the Kotska. So when the bird flew over Yodim and Azil's head, it burnt up, right? What happens if it flew over Hillel's head, the Rebbe, Hillel Zaken, right? It didn't. No, it's like it didn't. It was like it didn't. It was like a different darga. So it didn't burn up. Okay, let's do two things. Let's first go through the bias for Rabbi. It's like Rabbi Yochanan Mezakai knew every Shiloh of Bai Rabbi. What's a Bai Rabbi doing here? So look at the Rashi. Let's go through a few of these Rashis over here. For example, Dukduke Torah. What Rashi? Dukduke. Right. That's exactly my question. Exactly. Good. Now by George, you got it. Says the Gemara. Listen, and you'll learn. Dukduke Torah is ribui oisiyos. For example, the ribui of oisiyos sheboyin lidrosh behed ribui milutim ach verakin. He's going ha'ezrach. The word ha'ezrach lahoitzi anoshim. That we might say anoshim. We're going to do that this evening. In other words, there's things we can learn out from different digdukim, different things. There wasn't any digduk of any word that you can be marba. Digduke soifim she'siful dagdik achamaisa briyos ulahachmir lasis. In other words, he was medagdik after the actions of people to know when to make a takana and not take a takana, right? Made takanis, right? You remember one of those famous takanis guys was what? It was muktzah, right? Muktzah. We had the Gemara in Shabbos. Who was it? It was a Navi who came along. I always forget. I know exactly what the blot is. Anyway, so he came along and he said everything's asa. He saw they were not in Nisra Shabbos. He made everything asa, right? And then as they became more and more, they matted more and more and more. They make Gezeris based upon what people are doing. So he was very medaydik in that. Next Rashi. Kalim v'chamurim devarim halom mikal v'chomer shenitin lodam yatzman l'chalodam v'lei pirish. Sinai, it's not explained by Sinai people. Any person can dash the kal v'chomer as long as not a kasher on it. Because there is Shabbos that dov malom because there is Shabbos you need a Messiah from your Rebbe. Kufa is cheshbon hilacham levana. He knew exactly how to go ahead and the mekadesh levana. He knew exactly make it ibayar. These are all about the godless of Yochanan and Zakkai. The gematrius devarim aloin the milosh gematria. If you're going sasach bebavel is ba'atbash. The word sasach and bavel is atbash. Atbash is a means of counting up letters, guys. And you look at the words, the shin and the beis are interchangeable, right? And so on and so forth. Bavel is atbash is sasach. And continuing, he knew, for example, Naziris Yiyah, Kodesh Yiyah, Gematria is 30 guys, Stam Naziris is 30 days. Because we learn Gematrias. Sichas Malchei Asharei, Sichas Shedim, Sichas Tekolim. So now, Lo Yadana Maihi, I don't know what these are. Now, the Sichas Malchei Asharei that you could hear, Sichas Shedim that you could hear. We know Shlomo we heard that. We know, but Sichas, the trees. So I found, guys, this is Marshal. The Shur Mitzvah Malacha means that a Marshal, quoting a Rav Haigoin. He says there were people in his day, in his day, there were people who, on not a windy day, were able to hear the trees and they were able to tell future. But not a windy day. They're able to listen to the tree, that the tree has such a bria, it has to do it. Now, what's this thing? Havayis abayi v'rava, kol abayi lehu l'abayi v'rava, hu misafka lehu, u'bekula nasan es liboy v'nasan em tam, u'v'mei amuroyim nishtakachu. So he explained them, and it was gotten bimei abayi v'rava. In other words, what was shilas to abayi v'rava, to Rabbi Yochanan and Zakkai were pashut, and they were forgotten at that time. That's the way he learns. I sent out on the thing 2 things today. One I'm not going to do, one I am going to do. I'd like to do this one. Shuvah from the Marik. Okay, you guys probably could see this, right? You can't see it? No. Let me try again.
This meeting is being recorded.
I gotta find this. Shuas Marik. But you have to make it quiet because it's very, very annoying. It's enough that I have to hear myself in my head. I don't have to hear myself other places. No, I don't want this. I don't want this. I want this.
Yeah. He's trying to put it up.
Yeah, okay, I got it. Now you can see it, right?
Yeah.
Kasha b'shuas marik. There's two things over here, but I can't. I don't know. This is driving me nuts. Sorry. Kasha b'shuas marik. They were more learned in those dairis than the earlier generations. And that's why they're speaking so outstandingly about Rabbi Yochanan and Zakkai. The Moina Hacha Tuva Ulbeseifa Vayis the Abayevarava. If the Abayevarava were not from the earliest Amoraim, guys, the greatest Amoraim are who? Rav, Shmuel, Rabbi Yochanan. But so Reb Marik is saying, you know why they're comparing Rabbi Yochanan to Abaye V'Rava? Those because they were most learned then. They were most learned than Abaye V'Rava. In those days, they're most learned. And they learned all the brises. It's good historical to know this. V'yeshu v'tirtzu es kulam umitoich kach hoitzi kama dinim v'midu shmuas al buryon. Since they had all the information in front of them, they brought everything to fruition to go ahead and get a final psak that v'chein asu kol aboyim achreim, so too afterwards. The Goinim said the halachas are like the latter people of the Talmud because they had everything in front of them. And Marik is saying they were more learned b'mei Abaye V'Rava than they were in Rav and Shmuel. Very, very, very. Now, Avayim B'Kesef Mishnah, my Morin Perek Beis Halacha Beis Vayid Aminan Gadol Shebekulan is Yonasan ben Uziel. Katan Shebekulan is Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. So the Kesef Mishnah on the Rambam is going to explain our Gemara. And the different question is, Yochanan ben Zakkai was the smallest of all the Talmidim, and he knew everything. Dilma kan shebekulan loy b'chachmas haTorah kamar. He's not speaking about chachmas haTorah. El b'shar chachmatzu. Maybe he was a gadol in the other ones. Shahayu gedol mimenu in tree reading, in shadim reading, in malachim reading. That he was greater, right? In the again, as he says over here, in the koifsim shualim sichas shadim malachim hashari semaisim merkava. Maybe the greater. That he wouldn't have been Shenisman and Nasi V'Rosh Yeshiva Makom Hillel. Who took Hillel's place? Yochanan ben Zakkai. If he was Katan Shebekulam, why is he taking his place? So in Torah he wasn't Katan, and maybe in the other things he was Katan. So that's how the Kesef Mishnah is learning Pshana Gemara. It's a Fishvera Gemara. He knows everything, and now he's Katan Shebekulam. The other ones, for Isi b'Sefer Berlachai Royi Bakdamasi Tikuni Azayar Sheher Al Mashu Huva B'Zoyar Kama Pomim Dir Rabbi Yochanan Shua Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai Al Maimarim Shomam Royim. How can you have the Tana Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai bringing the words of Amoraim? How could you have the words of Yochanan and Zakkai bringing the words of Abaye V'Rava? That's a shver thing over here. That's what Mendy's bothered by. They came later, right? So why do you bring them over there? Listen to this, guys. Listen to this. This is again in the Sefer Berlachai Royi and from the Hakdama of the Kunei Zohar. So what does he say? V'hetik divrei harav Chaim Vital b'zel loshen. Ki kol divrei Reb Shimon bar Yochai hein b'ruach hakodesh. V'hayaroya be'einav nishamas hachachamim. He saw the nishamas of the chachamim. He saw them. The nishamas. Af oisam asidin libaris. Even the ones that are going to be born in the future. V'zeu gam kein inyan Reb Yochanan ben Zakkai shamru alav shleiniach mikro mishnah v'avayis Abaye V'Rava. Right. Im shahayu amarayim. Guys, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai saw the neshamas of Abaye V'Rava. That's the hezbollah. That's the husband. Peladik. Mendy, you're not getting this everywhere. Peladik.
Why can't we say halachas kama b'kama? We can't learn it. I mean, this was the kleinchike. Stel sich vor, was on the grace.
No, it's not mashma that again he was appointed to the highest position. Nasi, if he was the smallest, he wouldn't have. You're talking about 79 people greater than him.
I see guys giving the elbow.
No. It's not when it comes to learning. Not when it comes to learning. That was Kabbalah Satar. Not when it comes to learning. What?
What are you going to say about
Okay, that's they don't call him Hillel Zaken for nothing. Okay, so it's a beautiful.
What are you saying about those two guys? Hillel and Shammai, they were the top over there.
Again, we're talking about Talmidim of Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai.
No, I'm not there.
We're talking about Talmidim Yochanan Zakkai, right? Okay, so we're talking about the Talmidim of Hillel. This Talmidim of Hillel. Now, this Indian, what about the burning over there? This is a very, very wichtig Indian, guys. Let's look at Rashi. Why did the bird burn up? Why did the bird burn up? Right? Look at right before the Mishnah. It says Nisraf. Shahayu Malchi Ashares Miskabsim Svivav Lishmaya Divrei Torah Mipiv. In other words, when Yonasim and Azil would give a share, who would come to Rabbi Yonasim and Azil share? The Malachim. And the Srafim, Eifanim, Chayis HaKodesh. So that caused the fire. That's Rashi. Tosfos says a different shot. Let's see Tosfos. Top Tosfos. Kol oisha pereach alav miyad nisrayt. Shehadvarim smeichim kinisniyasam b'Sinai shenitna Torah be'esh. When Yonasim and Uzziel learned Torah, he learned Torah. It was mamish like Sinai, and just like Sinai, Torah was given what be'esh. So too, when he learned, it was be'esh. His Torah was so pure. That's from Sinai. Ukinyan zeh matzina b'medrash b'uvda the Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Yeshua shayim mesubim b'suda v'lata eish svivam. They were going ahead, and there was a suda, and the eish was surrounding him. And Rashi quotes the Rishaya pick beans, guys, that this is a Yerushalmi quoted in by Tosfos in Masechta Chagiga Daf Tesvav. What's the Maisa? What's the Maisa over here? There was a rich person named Avua, and he invited many people to the bris, including Rabbi Eliezer ben Hukinis and Rabbi Shua ben Chananya. And they were talking and learning, and they were surrounded with fire. And they said, they stop, you're going to burn down the house. They said, don't worry, it's the Eish of Torah, you don't have to worry. So Avua said, if that's the Koyach of Torah, I want my son to be like that as well. And since it was Shaloi Lishma, he had a son, Elisha ben Avua, who was known better as Acher. He was the Talmud of Rameir, he went off the derech. Right? Shuva Shoivim, here at Afia Pargid, everyone can come back except for Acher. Okay, anyway. So, and another example of them learning and Eish being there. So what's this whole Indian of Eish? So you see that the Eish is the Eish of Torah, to tap in. So I heard from Sli Bornstein today, he quoted the Nefesh HaChaim. The Nefesh HaChaim in Shar Daled speaks about Torah. And he says an unbelievable thing. He says that Torah was given at Sinai, but how many? 3,300 years ago. But that wasn't an event that occurred and passed. That event is ongoing in each and every one of us. We can tap into that Torah. That's Pshat over in this Gemara. When they tapped into that ongoing Har Sinai. That's ongoing all the time. It doesn't stop. It still goes on and on and on, and it doesn't stop. And if you learn and you tap into that, so when the fire comes down. And Yonasim and Azil obviously tapped into it all the time. And Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Shua ben Chananya, they tapped into it. The Torah is ongoing. Every day is a schachas of Torah, like it was given at Sinai. Every day is a schachas of Sinai. And he brought in an unbelievable Netziv. He brought in a Netziv from quoting a Sifri. Moshe, Pashas Chukas is punished. What was he punished for? He was punished for hitting the rock. He should have spoke to the rock. What was he supposed to say to the rock? Guys, rock, give water. That's what he was supposed to do, and that was going to make a Kiddush Hashem. They were having nisin neflois in the midbar. They needed water from a rock like a loch in the car. Ella says the Sifri, they were supposed to teach the rock. He was supposed to tell the rock, halach mishnah achas or halacha achas, and that's what he should have done, and the water would have came. Says the Netziv, and what would have been megalit to everybody, that even an inanimate object is roifas rosh hashchina. Why? Because the Torah was given in Eish, Mayim, and Midbar. Eish, Mayim, and Midbar. So the Mayim of the rock would have shown all of Klal Yisrael. Look what you could be. Look what you can do. Moshe minimized that chance. That's why he was punished so severely. It would make a lot of sense. We always ask that question. So he hit the rock instead of speaking to a rock. What's the big spritz? No, it was. Excuse the pun. It was a big spritz. It was a tremendous chance to be covered Shem Shemayim by teaching everyone once and for all that look what's right for, what's possible for us to tap into that. It's an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing. That's why Torah, nothing, guys, at this age, there's nothing that makes you feel like Torah. You sit and learn. There's nothing. What is that? You come home, you come home, you learn, you feel good about yourself. Especially once in a while, I say something decent. You feel good about yourself. You heard something. There's nothing like it, because inside of us there's that need. There's that piece of Torah that's there, that's being filled, and that's the koyach over here. That's the koyach over here. It's a wonderful thing. Okay. Says the Mishnah. Okay, guys. Just to remember, we had a machloikis, the share of a sukkah. The share of a sukkah, according to Beis Hillel, was roishay v'rubai without shulchanei, which was 6 tefachim. The Beis Shammai said roishay rubai v'shulchanei, which was 7 tefachim. Rabbi said 4 amis. We paskin like Tosfos brought. These are one of the 6 places we paskin like Beis Shammai. Like Tosfos like was like Daf Gimel, Daf Daled. Right? That's. The wrong place. Okay, anyway, it's here. There's a Tosfos there. Okay, so we pass him like that. So Misha Yerushav Ruba B'Shulchanoi, right? It was Daf Gimel. Misha Yerushav Ruba B'Sukkah B'Shulchanoi B'Sech Habayis. Now, guys, there's 2 machlokes over here, if you remember correctly. 1, the size of a sukkah. And 2, when you're in a big sukkah and the shulchan's in the house and you're reading the sukkah, are you going to be drawn into the house? So again, two problems over here. 1, the size of the sukkah. And 2, I'm in a sukkah that's fully big sukkah, but I'm sitting at the entrance of the sukkah and the table's in the house. Will I be drawn into the table? That's the shayla at hand. So this is mashma, the latter. Misha Yerushav Rubai b'sukkah, v'shulchan b'sech habayis. Mashma, he's in a sukkah and the shulchan's in the house. However, b'shamai poislin, that's not the right. Shammai should say you can't do that. Poisla means it's mashma, the sukkah is puzzle. So that's why we medayik there that there's 2 machlokes over here. We're still machshirin. Omer lehem beis Hillel beis Shammai. Lo kachoye ma'isa shalchu ziknei beis Shammai v'ziknei beis Hillel levakes Rabbi Yochanan ben Achuranis. They went to meet him on Sukkos. Umatzu sho yoshiv roishav ruba b'sukkah shulchan b'sech habayis v'lo yomer lo davar. So omer lehem beis Shammai mishumai. You don't have a raya from there. Im heim omru loi. They told him if you did this, right, then you weren't Mekayim Sukkahs in your life. Okay, next in. Again, guys, we're leaving that. The Gemara is not going to discuss that at all. Again, just for eternity purposes, we pass in the middle of the share of a sukkah, guys, is Zayin Tfachim. It's mamish nothing with nothing. It's nothing with nothing. An amma is 6 Tfachim. An amma is at most 2 feet. At most 2 feet. So you're talking 2 feet and a few inches is most. That's nothing. That's nothing with nothing. That's what you're paskin. Sveitins, we also paskin. We paskin like that. If you're sitting at the beginning of a house, that going in, you should be drawn after the thing. You keep your table in the house. Now, what about I don't know? Sakalach over there is again. That's the second machlokes. Noshim ba'avodim b'ketanim b'turim in sukkah. Why you have to tell us this? We'll see. Cotton shein it's tzarich le'imar. It's cotton that doesn't need mami. Chayiv b'sukkah. And Maisa v'yolda kalasa shel Shammai. There's a Maisa, and the daughter-in-law of Beis Shammai of Shammai gave birth. Upiches es hamaziva, and they v'sikach al gabav. They opened up the roof on top of it, and they put schach on top of it. Bishvil cotton. Obviously, it was within 4 amis of the wall. So we'll say leifan akuma. Okay, now l'chayre you're being a Maisa that's being soiser. You just told me a cotton's prata. Then you're being a Maisa that what that again, you don't bring a Maisa list story. You don't bring a Maisa to go ahead and contradict. You bring a Maisa to what to prove. Okay. Anyway, how do you know this then? How do you know that what women are what apart from the sukkah? Ezrach. It says called Ezrach. It says what does it say? It says that Kol Ezrach b'Yisrael Yeshu b'Sukkos. Ezrach is mashma everybody. Ha Ezrach. So guys, the word Ezrach is mashma everybody, men and women. Ha Ezrach ha is constantly mayit women. Kol l'Ravas is a ketanim, and Kol Ezrach is constantly marba ketanim. Amamar ha Ezrach lahitzi es hanoshim. L'meima, you mean to say the Ezrach bein noshim bein gavi mashma, that the word Ezrach alone is mashma. The word Ezrach alone is mashma both men and women. Iva Tanya, it says regarding Yom Kippur, by Yom Kippur, the pasuk says ha Ezrach. Tanu es nashar sechem b'chol malacha lo sasu ha Ezrach v'hager. The Rabbi says hanoshim ha Ezrachius. This comes to include women who are natives. Shechayava is be'inui, that the chayiv to fast. Alma Ezrach gaver mashma. Alma Ezrach is mashma only men. Guys, look, you have a kasha. Ezrach, look at this. Here's the way Rashi learns the kasha. The first Ezrach's mashma men and women. Then the word hey takes out women. The second Ezrach is mashma only men. The hey comes to include women linyan inui. So Rashi learns the question. The first hay is going ahead and is taking out, and the second hay is putting in. By sukkah, the hay took the woman out, and by here the hay put the woman in the ballpark of fasting. Right. So what is it? That's what is it? What's the Ezra? And for the Gemara, Amar Rava Hilchasaninu. It's Allah Mashmi Sinai Vasmichinu Rabbanon Akroi. Now you have two. You have two in Yanam here, Sukkah and Yom Kippur. Question is, which is the Allah Mashmi Sinai and which is the pasuk? Good. Which one? Sukkah or Yom Kippur? Which one is the Allah Mashmi Sinai? Which one is what? Is the pasuk? V'su Kral Lamali. Why would you need a pasuk and a Hilchas Lamali? Why would you need a pasuk, guys? Why would, if I asked you, women are part of Sukkah, what would you tell me? Thank you, Mr. Seishes Mangrama. Okay, a little harder question. So, Mandy, gotta be on your toes. Women chayiv to fast and not chayiv to fast. What would you say?
Yeah, they're chayiv to fast.
Why they chayiv to fast? What? Inui, meaning there is why it's not a mitzvah of inui. There's an isra of being ma'ani yourself, right? So it's a and what happens? So you can say it's not say good. What happens if guys? What happens if you ma'ani yourself? What happens if you eat on Yom Kippur? What's the halacha? Chorus. A woman, okay. When a woman part from mitzvah is mangrama, when there's no einish. If there's an einish, hushva ish the isha l'chol einshin b'tayra. Yeah, good. So let me ask you a question. Why do I need Allah Moshe Sinai? Why do I need an Ezrach? Why do I need anything? Through two psukim, two svaris, I told you the halacha. Women are part from a sukkah because the mitzvah is mangrama, and women are chayiv to mis'anik because there's an isakaris if you eat. So why do I need a pasuk of an Ezrach by Yom Kippur? And why do I need a pasuk of an Ezrach to take him out of the ballpark by sukkah? That's the most kasha. It's a great kasha. Great kasha. Sukkah says the Gemara. Why do you need a pasuk? Why do you need a lachat? 3 lines from the bottom. Sukkah mitzvah sesei is mangrama. Sukkah is a mitzvah sesei, it's contingent upon time. The mitzvah sesei is mangrama, that's contingent upon time. Nashim peturais. Nashim apata from. So therefore, I would know that. And the Yom Kippurim with the Rav Yehuda Marav Nafka. The Rav Yehuda Marav the Chintana Rabbi Shmuel Omakra Ish Isha Amid Beis Hishva Ish Hishva Kosav Isha a woman leish to a man l'chol einshim shebet Torah. So since there's an isakaris by what eating on Yom Kippur, of course she's in the ballpark. Fred the Gemara, great question. Why do you brought two psukim, ha'ezrach to take a woman out of the ballpark, ha'ezrach to put it by Yom Kippur, put a woman in the ballpark. I know she's in the ballpark by Yom Kippur, and I know she's out of the ballpark what by Sukkah. And for the Gemara, Amar Rabbi lo'ilam Sukkah hilchasa. Sukkah is halacha, v'itzterich, and I still need it. That what? That women are pata. Salkadai the chaminan. Tashuva came to duru. I would think what? Teshuvu, came to Duroi, Ma Dira Ish V'Ishtoi, just like in a Dira, a man lives with his wife, Av Sukkah Ish V'Ishtoi. So to a Sukkah, a man lives with his wife, and I would think she has to be in the Sukkah. Kimash Malon that what? That no. Kimash Malon that what? That she's not. Okay. Oichlim B'Shoisim, Tafresh Lamites, Sifkat Beis. Oichlim B'Shoisim, V'Yeshenim B'Sukkah, Kol Shiva, Ben B'Yom, Ben B'Layla, Ben Yeshenim Chutz the Sukkah, you shouldn't sleep outside the Sukkah. I feel Shnas Aroi, even what? Even a little nap. We saw all this in the Gemara. You could eat a snack outside the sukkah. We pass like what? We pass, not like Abaya, not like Rabbi Yosef. And that Mayim V'Yayin Paris that you can be fine. No, Achilas Aroy is speaking about Mizonis. It's even a little bit outside, but Paris you can eat a lot. Chutz l'sukkah. Right? That's the Avrami Weiner, right? That even person's machmer not to drink anything out of sukkah is emeshubach. The tavshel asim mechemeshes minim and in kavei love choshev keva v'tzarich sukkah. I got umashe noigim lahokol achshav b'sheina. Now he lived in Krakow, Poland. That we're makel in sleeping. Shein yeshenim b'sukkah. Rak hamedadakim b'mitzvahs. So even then they didn't sleep in the sukkah. Yesh oimim b'shem tzina because of cold. The yesh tsar lishaim b'mekayim hakarim. There's tsar to go ahead and sleep in places that are cold. It's a Mordechai. V'li nira says the Ramah in his own words. Mishum the mitzvah sukkah ish ubeishlai ish v'ishtay kiderech shu dar kalashana. The mitzvah sukkah is to live with your wife, and there's a mitzvah of teshuva came to duru. Uva mokem shlayucha lishan emishtay shein lei sukkah yuchedes pater. And in a place where you can't sleep with your wife, because the sukkah, but you can sleep with your wife with who? Whoever's in the sukkah. You don't have miyachid with your wife, so therefore you're potter. The toiv lahachmer, it's good to be machmer. Liyah sham mishtoi k'moy shehu dar kol hashana in efsha liyah slei sukkah yuchedes. So in the best scenario would be what to go ahead and have a sukkah that you could. But this might be a tour for a lot of reasons why we don't sleep in the sukkah. Many people don't sleep in the sukkah. Right, this could be in Eretz Yisrael. It's like unheard of not to sleep in a sukkah.
The weather is not cold.
It's not a cold day. It's I don't know. You know, it's a lot of. Listen, growing up, you couldn't sleep in a sukkah. It was sakana. We grew up. You couldn't sleep in a sukkah. Pashit. You couldn't. Goyim would come. It was a sakana. Again, it wasn't. We live in neighborhoods that pretty much are safe, and people, I think, more the generation has slept in the sukkah a lot more in the generations after me. But my daughter, she never slept in. No, your father didn't. No, my father also never did. Mandy, you slept in the sukkah? No, I'm saying your father, the other Shalom, slept in the sukkah. Huh?
No, you got a very small, very narrow.
Your father slept in the sukkah? No.
He didn't sleep. He didn't sleep, period.
Great. The Bronx.
At Leesburg, they had the mass circus that everyone shared.
I don't know. Anyway, so that okay. So therefore, you need her Ezrach because there's a svara to say that even though sukkah is a mitzvah she'esman grama, there's a svara to say that woman should be chayiv machmas the husband, right? Machmas the husband. Anyway, so therefore you need her Ezrach Tanish's partner. Now, what about Yom Kippur? What about Yom Kippur? Rabbi Mitzvah. Rabbi says it's another terror. Sachlin min yelov chamisha esrei michaga matzos. I learned 15 chaga matzos. That was our famous tesvav that we spoke at yesterday. Malahal and Nashim Chayav is just like over there by matzah. Women are chayiv. Guys, why are women chayiv and matzah? You got to know this. I asked this question to. That is the wrong answer. That is the wrong. That's why I always ask the question. The girls always get it wrong, and I'm not surprised that you're getting it wrong as well. Guys, listen. No, you'll get it. I set you up. They always say, Af hey moyse b'oisai. And when we learned the Gemara, I stressed it. Because Af hey moyse nes would only mechayiv you the Rabbanan. The reason why women are mechuyev in matzah is because there's a hekesh between matzah and chametz. And women are mechuyev in leisechel chametz, mechuyev not eat chametz. So we make a hekesh. The people who are in the ballpark of not eating chametz are in the ballpark of erev teichel matzahs. And women are every loisase in the Torah. And mainly that's the reason. But not get that out of your head. Af hey moyse b'oisai nes. Yeah, these.
Keep quiet.
Okay, so we have two pshatim in why two pshatim why you would say that you need the pasuk of an Ezrach to go ahead and be memayit woman from a sukkah. One, because of Teshuvah came to Duru, or two, because of the Gezerah Shava of Tesvav, just like woman's in the ballpark of Matzah, she's in the ballpark of sukkah. Okay, now V'hashda dam it's sukkah hilchas sakra alamali. Now, so now that you told me that sukkah is Allah Chamash Misinai, why do you need the pasuk of an Ezrach? The Rabbi says like Gerim. Einachinami, it's to be marbe Gerim. That Gerim are mechuyev in sukkah. Sakadech, I would have thought Ezrach be Yisrael, only native Jews, people are born Jewish. Amar Achmana, players like Gerim, Kamash Malon. The pasuk that even Gerim. Yom Kippur and Rav Yehuda Amar Rav Nafka. We said that we learn at Yom Kippur that women are mechuyev from Rav Yehuda Amar Rav because it has an einish of karis, and then women are mechuyev in all einshin. So, question: why would you add? Why would you need a pasuk of an Ezrach to tell me to be marba women in your inoi? Says you know what I need it for? That women are in the ballpark of Taisefes Inoi. Guys, we spoke out in Yuma, you add on there's a din of Taisefes Inoi. You know, we start earlier. We start the fast earlier, correct? Sakta, I would have thought Chayol Miat Rachmanol Taisefes Inoi Me Einish, Me Ashara. I might have thought that the Torah goes ahead. And it's Memayat from Taisefes Inoi from Einish and Lenis Chayv Noshim, Klal, Kamash Mulan. In other words, if you're in the ballpark only because of Einish, that's Einish on Yom Kippur if you eat. Over here, Taisefes, if you eat, you're not Chayv Einish. So I would thought women are not in the ballpark of Taisefes. The Ezra says even Taisefes, women are in the ballpark. Omar, going back over the Brisa, Kol the Rabbi says the Katanim, Kol the Ezra to include Katanim. Freg the Mar, it's a steer of a Tanan, Nasham Vadim Katanim, Petur Min Sukkah. So why do you tell me Kol to be Marba? Like Kasha, Kam B'Kon Shegil Lechinach, Kam B'Kon Shlegiyachem. A cotton that's Magil Lechinach, guys, the cotton Zagil Lechinach is what? Is Mechuyev in a Sukkah, Kon Shlegiyachem Lechinach is not. Who's like midrabanon? So what do you mean kol? How can it be deraisa? And from midrabanon across machtam almu. It's krobes machtam. Guys, I'll tell you something very, very wichtig about chinuch. I saw this Martzchias in Chav Zayin and Masech the Nazir. Guys, listen to this. It's either Chav Zayin or Chav Gimel. I might be dyslexic. I think it's Chav Zayin. But listen, guys, listen to this. You learn chinuch is you got to teach them what to do, right? You got to teach them what to do. Now, tell me. It's not to teach him what to do. It's an Indian of Regilis. Says the Maritzchias, if he gets by mitzvah and you dump all the mitzvahs on him all at once, it's too much for a kid. So what do? You start breaking him early, giving him mitzvahs to do. Not so much to go ahead and teach him what to do, but to mechanech him that when the family comes, that it's not a big burden for him. I still remember. Okay, now what is the give? That's one that doesn't need a mother. What's an example of cotton that doesn't need a mother? He's able to go ahead and wipe himself. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, he wakes up and he doesn't call out mommy. I wake up and say ma. I also say right, ma. Mommy. In other words, one time you'll do, but only a baby is going to do mommy. That's the answer to your question. Maisa v'yolda kalasai shel shamai. Guys, we had the Maisa that the kal of yolda kalasai. So what did the Maisa say? A cotton is pata. Then you bring a Maisa that Shammai went ahead and put sukkah on top of a roof. Fred the Gemara, Maisa listar. The Maisa is what? To be sicer. And from an it's missing words. And here's the way you learn. The Shammai machmir. Shammai was machmir. Umaisa nami, and there was a Maisa also. V'yolda kalasa shel Shammai hazakein upiches es amaziva, and they opened up the cement and they had the slats. The sikech, I'm sure Shammai went ahead and put schach in between them. The shitasai, the sikech alamita b'shvil cotton, and they went ahead and they were sikech on the mita what if they had cotton. So in other words, once you add the word and there are those who are machmir, then it makes sense what the Maisa is.
Maybe kids say that.